who are here today. We begin our proceedings as normal with the affirmation. Tēnā tātou katoa. We seek wisdom, understanding, insights into the views and circumstances of others, strength to seek what we believe in, humility to accept the combined decisions of others, patience, good humour at all times, tolerance and courtesy while working in the best interests of the community. Having read out that affirmation, maybe we should reflect on the events at Westminster this morning and acknowledge our sympathy for the family of the deceased and our best wishes for the recovery of those who are gravely injured. It always feels a little close to home when an attack of that nature is directed at an institution of democracy. And we can reflect a little that while we have disagreements in New Zealand, we do have a high level of tolerance and harmony, and long may that last.
I'll second that.
Thank you very much. I don't think we need to move it formally. I think it's on the minds of all of us today. Apologies. We've apologies received from Councillor Kathy Casey. Welcome, Councillor Fletcher, back, and wish her well for her ongoing recovery. Apologies from Councillor Dick Quacks and for a brief absence from Councillor Hulse, who's got an official engagement on behalf of Council through part of the morning. I move that the apologies be received. If I seconder, Councillor Collins. All those in favour, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Carried. Declarations of interest. Are there is there any councillor that has a declaration that they need to make this morning in that regard? If not, we have the minutes. You will have read the minutes from the 23rd of February 2017. I move that we confirm the minutes. Have I a seconder for that?
Yes.
Seconder, Councillor Simpson. Any discussion? If not, I'll move that we confirm the minutes. All those in favour, please say aye.
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 To the contrary, no. Carried. No specific acknowledgements today. Petitions. We have one request that has been accepted from the Takapuna Action Group, and this is in relation to the disposal of land in Anzac Street, which is currently used for the Takapuna Sunday Market. Could I ask Trish Deans and Graham Saxon to come forward and speak to their petition, please? Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you.
Would you like some?
Yeah.
So generally we allow 5 minutes to speak, so I'll give you a warning when you're coming close to that time. Thank you.
We're on to it. Mr Mayor, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Graham Saxon. I'm a Takapuna resident. I was born a stone's throw from the Takapuna car park, which we're endeavouring to save, and I still reside in Takapuna. As spokesperson for the Takapuna Action Group, we would like to present a petition to the governing body concerning resolution number AUC 2016-22, when Council, at its Auckland Development Committee meeting on 10th of March 2016, resolved to dispose of the area known as 40 Anzac Street, which is colloquially known as Takapuna Car Park. What we have here are well over 8,500 signatures to this petition for the retention of this open space. Forget car park, forget market, think open space. 8,500 people who took the time to discuss this issue and sign their names because they want to retain this important open area can't all be wrong. Most people are grudgingly coming around the reality of intensified living. Takapuna already has enough area zoned for this purpose. The land surrounding the car park is zoned for high rise of apartments from between 6 to 16 stories. It's for a proposed population increase of 10,000 inhabitants, with several 6 to 9 story apartment blocks already under construction within a 500 metre radius of this open space. Across the road, Shore City site will go ultra high in the near future. Anzac Park, with parking below, should become the community hub for this intensified Takapuna, just as Ateed successfully operates Aotea Square. Currently, Takapuna's War Memorial and Anzac Day Parade, attended by 5,000 people, is held on privately owned land in the Strand and is far too small for purpose and could well be redeveloped at any time. The memorial needs a new home. Anzac Avenue, Anzac Park is the fitting venue. The current situation is an annual embarrassment to us. The people who care that signed this petition understand that real people will live around here, families with children. They need a space to breathe and play and to feed their souls in. We must not sentence future generations to live lives locked indoors in front of screens. We must provide them with open space. Our other significant open space, Takapuna Beach and Reserve, is under increasing pressure and already looks like something from the crowded coast of southern France. Auckland's most beautiful beach, as it has been termed, will suffer occupational overuse syndrome in the very near future. Anzac Park is an imperative to provide further open space. If we look back, villages, towns, cities that work have all had a town square, a focal point to gather and interact in. Sir Dove Meyer Robinson understood this point and was mocked when he first suggested Aotea Square. Tell people now that you're going to sell off Aotea Square and see the public reaction. And yet, here we are, poised to tear the heart out of a potentially model Takapuna town centre for purely commercial interests. This area must not be carved up for commercial self-interest. We don't need more or want more cold, shady, quirky, windy alleyways with cafes and shops full of more stuff and 9 stories of more apartments. Apartments affordable to only a few wealthy citizens. There is ample room for commercial redevelopment within the precincts of Takapuna commercial area. Let commercial investors carry that cost. Let them build upwards. Board member Jan O'Connor has been championing an ideal where car parking is underground and open recreation area above ground. There are many shining examples of this in cities around the world. If we must develop this area, why can't we do this in Takapuna? If we can't afford it now, wait until we can. Open space won't go off, it will keep. If we look back over time, we've had visionaries who have achieved great things for North Shore. Adjacent to the car park area is Potter's Park, gifted to the people of Takapuna by Frederick Seymour Potter of Mount Eden.
Graham, if I can just ask you to wind up a bit, please. We've already gone over time.
For the women and children of this area on a... blah, blah, blah. You're throwing me now. Okay. So what we are saying is our aim and our wish, and we demand that this car park area is saved for these new people. Okay? And I'll pass you over to Trish, who has some backup.
I will be brief.
Okay, if I can get you to keep it brief, please, Trish.
This is the petition, the 400, the 8,500 signatures that we've collected, and the petition read, "We, the undersigned, oppose Panuku's development plan to sell the Anzac Street Takapuna site that is currently used by the Takapuna Sunday Market." Now, what I have for you are the documents dating back to 1963, which is the initial resolution from the Takapuna Council. We have the title of the land, and we also have the loan repayment scheme which took over 31 years from a targeted rate, as you will be familiar with that also in modern day terms. So we'd like you to see that. But the point of those documents is that they emphasise the aim of the fee simple for parking purposes pursuant to section 177 of the Municipal Corporations Act 1954. So I'd like to leave those documents with you. They're the background. And I thank you for listening to us this morning. I'm asking you to rescind the motion, the resolution number AUC 2016-22, which originated from the Auckland Development Committee meeting on the 10th of March 2016, that gave permission for Panuku to sell our car park central space. And we ask you to honour your commitment to make Auckland greater, with greater communities, greater connection, greater value. Please do not sell this land. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Trish, and thank you, Graham. Very clear, eloquent and heartfelt presentation from you. We've exhausted our time, but if there is any pressing question, I think you've made it absolutely clear to all of us what you're looking for. So in that case, I'll move that the governing body thank you both.
Second.
For attendance, seconded by Councillor Darby. Also that we received the petition in response to the disposal of land on Anzac Street, Takapuna, currently being used by the Takapuna Sunday Market from the Takapuna Action Group, that we request that the petition be forwarded to our Chief Operating Officer of Auckland Council and Panuku Development Auckland for consideration as part of the ongoing planning activities in relation to the town centre. And also just to note, which I'm sure you're aware of, that any potential disposal of the relevant land would be subject to public consultation as required by the Local Government Act. So that's the resolution, councillors. It's been seconded. All those in favour, please say aye.
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 To the contrary, no. Carried. Thank you very much for your presentation and your presence here today. Councillors, we come to item number 7, public input. There have been no requests today. Item number 8, local government input. There is an accepted request, I think still current, from Angela Dalton. Angela, I can see you there, accompanied by Lamonga Lydia Soseni, the chair of Mangere Otahu Local Board, and Lotu Fuli as the chair of Otara Papatoetoe Local Board. And this is in relation to the Easter Sunday trading legislation, which is, as you'll be aware, the next item on the agenda, and no doubt you'll stay for that. Angela, if I can ask you to lead off.
Thank you. Good morning, Your Worship, and good morning, councillors. Lydia and I are here today on behalf of the Manarewa Otara Papatoetoe and Mangere Otahu local boards. Apologies from Lotu, who did want to be here today. We want to speak to you regarding item 11, which is the council's response to Easter Sunday trading legislation. We thought that we just might assist you with a bit of an insight from our 3 local board areas. A note in your report that you'll be looking, we hope, to have greater engagement with through local boards to our Māori Pacifica diverse and hard to reach communities. So Lydia and Lotu and I have been out speaking with our communities since the legislation changed last year in August. So our advice to you today comes from speaking with those respective residents, community groups and churches. And this is a bit of a balancing perspective to you in relation to point 18 on your item that advises you've been approached, or council has been approached already by Foods Dust Progressive and 3 individuals. There's 3 main points that I'll get Lydia to elaborate on a little bit more that we have. One, our communities have a very strong Christian demographic who hold Sunday, and especially Easter Sunday, as a sacred day for worship. It's important to them, to us. Family time is to be cherished, and life has changed significantly since the introduction of Saturday and Sunday trading years and years ago, and arguably not for the better when we see some of the disengaged youth in our respective communities. I don't think anything can replace family time. And we worry about the pressure on our vulnerable workforce. So although the legislation under 5I, there is a right of refusal to work for employees, we think that our people would struggle to stand up to that and that they will be taken advantage of. So those are really our three main points. And Lydia, perhaps you'd like to elaborate.
Thanks for the opportunity. And just to support in what Angela's saying, in terms of Easter trading on Easter Sunday and Good Friday, those are particular two days, particularly for the faith communities in our local communities, that we want to see those protected, and that's our strong position in terms of advocacy. Trading can happen every other day of the year, but in particular for the faith communities, those are two special days, and we urge the committee to strongly consider those points. Thank you.
Well, our preference would be to support option 2, which is to decline adopting a policy. We do respect and value democracy and transparency, and so happy actually to go out and do community engagement, but would ask perhaps the governing body consider that we could do that alongside some other community consultation that we're doing at the moment, instead of going out with another special consultative process. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to both of you. That again was a very clear presentation, and we will consider in our next item our response to the legislation. But we have got time for a couple of questions. Yeah, Councillor Greg Sayers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Angela, just to be clear on the option that you're recommending there, I wasn't quite sure if you're talking about option 2, option 1 there.
So option 2 is, I think, where you would decide not to adopt a policy.
And option 1 was going out for community
and
engagement.
doing some consultation.
Which one are you supporting?
We value the democracy of consultation.
Option 1?
Yeah.
Option
Yeah,
I just
one.
wanted to clarify that.
Yep.
Thank you.
No, that's very helpful as a clarification. Professor Collins?
Thanks, Chair. Thank you to the two chairs. I'm just wondering if in your conversations with the church communities, if they have a real sense of fear around the whole opt-in or opt-out option. Do you think they're sensing that it's not going to be possible if they feel kind of subservient to their employers?
Thanks for the question, Councillor. In terms of the churches want council to understand their points of view. And so as a faith community, the weekend is a very precious family time, as you've already heard in our submission. And that has been absolutely eroded with all sorts of trading. And so whilst they go about their business, the churches have a strong view to protect their flock in terms of Easter Sunday and Good Friday. And they would want to see that the council uses and hears their views in terms of protecting those two particular days. And so that's what they've put forward in terms of their view.
Thank you very much. That's very useful clarification. We're immensely grateful to central government having failed to resolve this issue over decades for now passing it to local government. There's got to be some justice in that for me somewhere. Thank you very much. If I can move formally to thank Angela Dalton and Lydia Soseni on your presentations today. I have a seconder from Professor Collins. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. Carried. Thank you very much, and you're of course welcome to stay for the next substantive item. The very next item is extraordinary business. None has been notified. Notices of motion, equally no requests for notice of motion have been notified. So we come to item 11, response to Easter Sunday trading legislation. And if I can ask Pania Elliott and Katarina Maki to come to the table, please, if we have you. Yep.
I'm happy to move option 1, Mr. Chairman, to open for discussion.
Okay, let's hear the discussion, then we'll have the resolution if that's if
I'll
that's.
foreshadow.
You can foreshadow. Thank you. Right. Thank you very much. The paper, I think, and the options are pretty clear, but you might like to talk briefly to it. then we'll move the resolution, and then we'll have questions to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just to recap, just at a high level, just
Can I get
look
you to
over-
move a little closer to your mic?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. So the purpose of this paper is to seek approval for community engagement to inform a decision on whether or not council should expand shop trading in Auckland on Easter Sunday from 2018. So we know that the Shop Trading Amendment Act came into force last August. And under the Act, councils can now adopt a policy to allow shops in all or parts of their district to trade on Easter Sunday. So currently only some shops can trade on Easter Sunday. And we've had some approaches, as mentioned before, from Foodstuffs, Progressive Enterprises and several individuals asking about council's response to expanding Easter Sunday trading. And we've identified 3 possible responses to the legislation, and one is to this is our recommended approach, is to undertake community engagement to help inform council's decision on whether to retain the status quo or to allow shops to open in all or parts of Auckland on Easter Sunday. Or option 2, decline to adopt a policy and retain the status quo. Or option 3, request the preparation of a statement of proposal containing a policy to allow shops in Auckland to trade on Easter Sunday from 2018. And there are no options that allow for a decision for Easter 2017. So as mentioned, we recommend option 1. So this now enables a fair process to allow Aucklanders' views to inform the decision.
Thank you very much, Panya. It's been moved by Linda Cooper. I'm looking on the wrong side of the room, that we adopt option 1. I'd like to second that motion. But before we commence debate on it, are there specific questions to our officials? I can nominate our councillor from Orake, Desley Simpson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've got 3 questions. You heard, hopefully you were in the room when the local boards presented, and they've done some engagement already in their communities. So why haven't we acted earlier, bearing in mind this went through in August last year? So why haven't we acted earlier to engage communities, potentially, brought this to the table earlier and started the whole process earlier? That was my first question. And the second question is, what was the basis of the historic exemption for Parnell in 1989 that is mentioned in the report? They've got an exemption against this. And my third question is, what Auckland Council sponsored or promotional events currently take place on Easter Sunday? Now, I've sent those questions through, Your Worship, so not as if...
Three questions that you may or may not have the answers to, but have a crack at them.
Yesterday. Sorry,
no, that's great. Yeah, thank you. I should actually acknowledge that you've been, and if I can commend Councillor Simpson, in the interests of getting clear answers and of getting through our debate more quickly, once you've read your papers, if you've got questions specifically, if you can direct them to officials, it both enables them to prepare the answers so that they're well informed and we can be well informed, but it also cuts back time. So thank you very much for that, Councillor. Now, properly prepared and ready to answer the 3 questions.
The reason, through the Chair's apologies, the reason this didn't proceed earlier is because of mostly the election. So the decision came out in late August, and by that point in time I think there was 1 committee left in September. So there was no time to do engagement with the community. Once council had got through its process of warranting setting up committees, there were other priorities for governing body before this one.
Thank you very much. Now, the historic exemption.
So in the time that we've had, we have quickly looked at what were the reasons behind the exemption. So, for example, government made these decisions, not local government, so it's quite hard to get the information. So what we could see is there were no reasons provided for the exemption in Parnell. We do know that the majority of shop owners made an application, that hearings were made, and a decision was made by the government to give them exemption. This is one of the criticisms of previous discussions at a national level, is there seemed to be no rationale for why exemptions were given or not given. For example, Queenstown will be given an exemption as a tourist area, and for until recently, Rotorua did not have an exemption, and neither did Wanaka. So there was always an argument that there was no clear rationale around why exemptions were or were not given. In terms of your third question, we, in the time we had, could only find one event that would be held so far, which is the Waiheke International Jazz Festival, which would be held from the 14th to 16th of April. There are other events, though, that of course go on in Easter, not necessarily council events like the Easter show, but they're actually not considered retail.
Thank you very much. I can confirm the answer on the exemption. I was in Parliament at the time, and it was done in an ad hoc way, and because it's a conscience vote, any one member could...
Extensive lobbying by one Mr Harvey.
Yeah, that was also a factor, Councillor Fletcher, as you recall very well. I've got Councillor John Walker, next question.
Thank you. Question is, I want to ask is why it's taking so long to make a decision? Why do we have to wait to 2018 for this decision to be made, whether we go for Sunday trading or not? And surely it must be up to the shopkeepers whether they want to open or not Big Brother here.
Through the Chair, the reason for that is that the legislation requires us to use a special consultative procedure. So that's a procedure where this governing body must adopt the policy. So it has to receive the policy, adopt it. That then must go out for a public consultation so that they can make submissions of at least 1 month. And then there must be some deliberations before a final decision is made. So it's that time period to undertake that process is why it wasn't able to be done in time for Easter 2017.
Thank you. Councillor Alfilippaina.
No, I've actually answered it myself, Your Worship, on the time frame and number 32 on our agenda item.
Thank you very much.
The longer option.
Councillor Linda Cooper.
Thank you, and just reserve my right to speak. This is a question. So the local board chairs were talking about using the time at the moment while we're consulting on, I guess, on the annual plan, was my assumption, to go out and talk about this now. So can you just answer that? Why couldn't we do that now? I'm not advocating, and I just would like to hear the rationale.
So through the Chair, that's certainly through that process and perhaps even the local board plan process. We can look to use those as a means to engage. We are looking at other avenues as well to get to those more vulnerable, more difficult to reach people, such as the people that would be working. So we're looking at a range of cost-effective ways of doing that, and that can certainly be 2 of them.
As far as, through you, Mr Chairman, what I meant was the idea of speeding this up, will that still be able to engage people if we sped it up and use current, maybe, I mean, we're part way through the annual plan, so we may have missed quite a few people already. Is that going to be thorough enough if we went, totally relied on that?
I suppose through the Chair, we would say that the people we need to engage for this are not the people who normally engage on annual plan.
So that's not the ideal.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily the most ideal process. And speeding up doesn't make Easter 2018 come any quicker.
Yeah.
So it just pressures communities to engage when in fact there is no need to pressure them that heavily.
Thank you.
It will take effort to access some even small businesses as well as those in precarious work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Richard Hills.
I think my questions were, I was just asking about how we can make the consultation a bit cheaper maybe, considering this wasn't our decision, but I think you've answered it. So.
Thank you. Councillor John Watson.
Yeah, and just further to that, I'm just looking through, but do we have a cost for this consultative process? How much it will cost us?
Through the Chair, this is just an estimate, but generally we will use our existing platforms, so it will only take staff time to run both the non-statutory and statutorily required consultation. So over around about a 6-month period, we estimate it could take up to $50,000 worth of staff time.
Which is already budgeted.
50.
Yeah, of staff time.
Which is already in the budget.
Which is already in the budget.
Thank you. Councillor Collins.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Would the consultation process allow for the ability for people to feedback the possibility that maybe Section 44 of the Holidays Act could be amended to include Easter Sunday as a public holiday?
Through the Chair, we could certainly receive submissions on that basis and perhaps use our relationships with government to suggest that and use that as a voice for Aucklanders around what they might like to see, but that would be purely an advocacy position given that they are the decision maker.
Great, thank you.
Thank you and good luck. Councillor Daniel Newman.
Thank you, Your Worship. I understand, and I'm reserving my right to speak, I understand the implementation set out in first bullet point under para 41. Is there the ability to include the findings of the community engagement that we undertake now as part of the information that will inform the special consultative process? Because what we're going out to consult on is not a special consultative process and there's no statement of proposal. So I'm a little bit concerned that there is a target community that I really want to talk to, but I do want their information to sit alongside the submissions that we get if we do go through a consultative process later on.
Yes, through the Chair, certainly that's the main benefit for doing this engagement. It means that when you come to do your special consultative procedure, if you indeed make that decision at that time, it means that all the information you've gathered now or in the next coming months can be an information source for your decision when you're deliberating on the submissions you receive on any policy.
My only concern, Mr. Chair, is that we don't have a statement of proposal right now for consultation. We're going through a community engagement, which is a separate thing. But I do want to ensure that the information we do get now has significant weight, notwithstanding the fact that we don't have a statement of proposal.
Through the Chair, yes, it can.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Look, let's come now for a general discussion on the proposal. This is not the last word on this debate. There will be, I imagine, a lengthy debate after, if we choose the option 1, after we've had consultation. But some members may want to put on record a view at this point. If we can keep our comments as concise as possible, because there will be another chance for further discussion. So opening it up for discussion. Do we have any councillor that... Councillor Filipaina.
Thank you, Your Worship. My preferred option would have been option 2. That would have been my preferred. But if it's going to go to any other option, option 1. Your Worship, your opening remarks when we had this agenda is correct. We've been failed by central government and it's just pointed off to us. But it is what it is. And we need to go through. So if option 1 is the one that is being that will end up coming out of this, fine. And that's why I read on page 26, the option 1 in the implementation, that from April through to the July 2017 is the community engagement, and then in August is the findings of the engagement, and that's when a decision will be made as to whether we stay with option 1 or option 2 or option 3. Now I know that Councillor Cooper has put in option 1, but as I said earlier, option 2 would have been preferred for me. And that's as a result of the comments made by both the local board chairs. And the one that I really noted was what Le Maunga Lydia Sorsene said, which is protected from a religious perspective. You know, I mean, we've read, there's been a lot of documents being put out and commentary around the reasons for keeping Easter Sunday the way it is. And so from my perspective, now that if we're going to go to option one, that consultative period is important, especially from April to July, and then August the decision. So, Chair, it would have been my preferred option, option two, but if option one is the way to go, well then I just want to ensure that the consultative and community engagement process is a thorough one.
Yep.
And then the decision in August 2017. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Obviously, if we pass option one, it's giving the public the chance to have input, and when we've had that input, we'll come back and we'll face a couple of separate options. It may be 2 and 3, or it may be variations on 3 for parts of Auckland or all of Auckland. The legislation doesn't enable us to say some shops but not other shops, as I recall the legislation. Okay, we have a long list of bidders. Councillor Watson.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad Councillor Filipaina said that, because I think it's worth putting on the record that this is an unsatisfactory situation for councils to be put into. This sort of debate's now going to be getting duplicated all around New Zealand. In the past, any move to cut into Easter has been pretty roundly rejected by New Zealand citizens, and my preference also would be to just cut to the chase too and go to option 2 as well. But I see there is an argument to go out to listen to our community, but I think what our community is going to say is pretty clear. We've heard it from the local boards today. I just see a email through from my local board, and affluent bourgeoisie of the North Shore, and their board is almost unanimous against any incursion into Easter Sunday as well. So that's both ends of Auckland there. I think it's also worth noting that some of these, and I guess this will come out in the consultation, I hope it will, some of these so-called protections are not really protections at all, and I think particularly of the notion that people who might object to it, shop workers might object to it, might then take a personal grievance. Really, in today's day and age, I don't know if too many people on 90-day trials would be moving to move a personal grievance. Yeah. I was in a workforce where people were frightened to take personal grievances even when they were losing their jobs. So I don't know how someone would make a stand over Easter Sunday. So I don't think that's realistic. That's actually just inviting, really taking advantage of the workers, particularly when they're not even entitled to extra rates. I note also, Mr Mayor, that even the United Kingdom just very recently went down this track. The Conservative Party attempted to introduce the Enterprise Bill, which was going to make a move on Easter holidays, and that was rejected by a backbench revolt from within the Conservative Party itself under the slogan, "Keep Sunday Special," and I think that's what we will hear resoundingly from our communities. But I would just finish by saying that my preference is just to maintain the status quo, but I can see some logic in giving our communities the opportunities to express their views, which they will do, and they will do as they have done in the past. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Linda Cooper.
I'll close the debate, Mr Chairman. So did you want to take the other people first?
Yep, I'm happy to do it that way. Councillor Richard Hills.
Through you, Mr Mayor. As most people who know me know that I'm not religious, but I personally am opposed to this. I know, working in retail in my earlier life and during school, and hospitality and other things during university, I know that a whole lot of young people and a whole lot of vulnerable workers and a whole lot of workers who have no contact directly with their employer or will have a really hard time saying, look, I'm not going to work Sunday, or even approaching an employer about that. It's also, for me, the fact, I remember Easter being a great time to actually have a break, go away with family, because everyone was off. It was a time that you could just all go together or do something together. And I know that's probably nostalgic or whatever and not based on any sort of fact. But the whole thing is that it's only 3.5 days a year that we actually have this. And, for me, life is a lot more intense and fast for so many families as it is now. There's no more 40-hour working week. times are pretty crazy for most. So I think for me it was always an opportunity to have that break in the middle of the year where you could have some time together. I don't see, there's not a massive economic impact of allowing trading on Sundays. It's, people factor it in that 3.5 days a year you've got to be closed. Yes, I support that we go out for consultation. We had 21 people, but also for the fact that I know that the powerful people will be submitting at large, as we always see, and the people who probably might not even know we're submitting, asking for consultation, might not even know how to access it, and depending on how difficult we make the submissions or how lengthy the explanations are, as opposed to just a yes, no, which I'd prefer. But, then do we really get the people who are going to be most affected by this? So, yeah, I totally respect the religious part. I know there's communities within my community that are absolutely upset and opposed to this because of religious reasons, but I also think in general that it's, family time for everyone, and it's just a chance to have those 4 days, celebrate something, whether it's something spiritual, religious, or family. So yeah, so I'm kind of, probably will vote for option 1 because of the public, but I prefer just not to do it all. And I think it's going to be more messy for the whole country because of the way the government's done it, left it up to council, sort of cowardly, said, yep, we're doing a job, but we're not really doing it because we're putting it out, and it's going to be so different for every single area around the country. And probably local boards are going to request different exemptions for their areas, which will make it even more confusing. So yeah, I'm a bit disappointed that this is really a distraction and unneeded thing in my perspective. But yeah,
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Desley Simpson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I am supportive of going out to engagement. My mandate from my ward was to listen to and involve locals in major decision making, and I think this is a major decision that we're going to make. We have in Auckland about 191 ethnicities. Some are Christian based, but many are not, and I think we need to ask our communities their thoughts on what will be a particularly sensitive issue for so many. It should come as no surprise, I think the government has done the right thing, because Auckland is not Kaio or Tikuri, and I think to allow communities the choice and the right to make decisions about what they feel comfortable for having in their areas, I think is a good idea, and we obviously should take that up. And we've got the choice now to ask our community, and I think we should take the wider community of Auckland in all its forms, and I think we should take it. I don't think we should have a personal view yet. I think it's about actually asking Auckland, and I would support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Collins.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to touch on a couple of the things that both chairs shared, and maybe I am religious, and I just wanted to invite people to think about the Pacific community, of which in the last census 87% said they attended church. The bulk of them would be at church on a Sunday. And this piece of legislation, whilst I think we've been failed by the government, is now up for us. My preferred position would have been to go with option 2, because I think our communities have spoken very clearly on this issue. They don't want it. But if you look at what we're talking about this Sunday, that our church community, where 87% go to church, we're talking about what they call Resurrection Sunday, or le aso salto e tu. And that is the Sunday that is special. You see the colour at the church. You see families coming together. You get a whole range of the community who've never been back to church coming because they want to honour mum and dad. These are the families that are going to be hugely impacted if they're required to work on this Sunday. And so my slight weariness comes because we're saying let's go out and engage the community. And this is not the issue we had in Warkworth, where I got emails right up till yesterday. Hey, this is not going to happen with our community, and we know that. We know that to be a fact, because our people are busy trying to get to church, trying to do all the things just to get their families by. They are not going to have the time, and we see it time and again through all our annual plan consultations, through local board plan consultations. Our communities want us, as their elected members, to speak on their behalf. And so today, Councillor Filipina and myself are doing just that. We are speaking on their behalf. There is academic research that is coming out from Pacific academics who are saying that's why you're there. My mum says to me even today, I don't go to those meetings because you speak better English, and then you come home and you come to church and you translate it in Samoan for our families. We trust you. And so the trust that is on Le Maunga, who is a high chief in our community, is to say this is going to highly impact our communities. And so whilst I want to go, whilst I want to be part of the perceived democracy, which is to go out and to ask people, we know that this is the same community that doesn't vote. This is the same community that doesn't give us feedback, and it is not a failure on the part of this community. It is because our ways of engaging them has let them down. So the government have let us down as far as this piece of legislation is concerned, and we in our engagement have let down the communities that make this city vibrant and diverse. And so I'm completely opposed to the idea of this piece of legislation, but I will stand with what the local board chairs have said and say let's go out and engage the community, but we've got to do our damnedest to make sure we get their responses, that we get their voices, and then we don't just cast this wide, odd, abstract blanket of let's go out and consult when we end up with results that reflect the very voting results that we got in the last election. So I'm happy to go out and to consult, but I want the community to know that that's why we're here. We are here to speak on their behalf, and I think the evidence from them, when we're in their churches, when they come and speak to us individually, that they do not want this to proceed. This is a special day for our communities. This is Leaso Sa Le Toitu. This is the day where we celebrate. This is the day that represents hope, and they don't want to be behind some cash bar serving people at work. They would rather be with their families. And the research is clear that's coming out of TSI, I can pull all of it up, is that we've got so few time, such little time with our families that we need our parents present. So the research is telling us we shouldn't support this. And I want to make it very clear that this is a very dangerous place to be if we're consulting on the guise of being consultative and engaging them, because that's what I think it is in the end. They're not going to participate, but we will do everything we can to make sure their voices are heard. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Councillor Daniel Newman.
Thank you, Your Worship. I mean, the reason why I asked the question that I did around how do we use the feedback we get through the community engagement under option 1 alongside the submissions process for a special consultative procedure is for precisely the reasons that Councillor Collins articulated so eloquently. The concern is that if we go through a special consultative process after our deliberation in August, that we will do that, that the very good reflections that we will pick up through an engagement get lost when we have the big submitters and their legal counsel come in and present the evidence as to why we should move on removing the prohibition on trading on Easter Sunday. So I'm very keen to ensure that so I'm very, very keen to ensure that we do pick up the information under option 1 and sit it alongside the submissions that we will no doubt get if we do subsequently decide to go through a special consultative process. Your Worship, the one concern that I have is if we go down the path of option 1 and in August we come to a decision whereby we have to make a yes or no decision on a statement of proposal. I've got strong views too, and if my view in August is actually, well, we shouldn't do that because there are compelling reasons, but the majority decide that in fact we should, I don't want to break cover too early and declare my position, because at the end of the special consultative process I'm still required to have an open mind about the submissions, and I'm very nervous because I have quite a strong view. I go to Mass most Sundays if I'm able to, and Easter Sunday is a deeply revered time in the calendar for Christian New Zealanders, but actually even for those who are not people of faith, Easter Sunday is a time of rest and family, and I think that that's important for a much wider constituency than just those of us who do go to church. So I'm happy to go down the path of option 1, but I place an absolute premium on the feedback that we get in option 1, informing our subsequent deliberations, not only in August, but also to carry through for when that report back does come, if we do go down the SPC process later on, because I don't want the voice of Pacifica to be lost simply because the way in which the CP engagement process works tends to attract a certain constituency of people who will go through that formal hearings exercise.
Thank you, Councillor. Maybe I can just put it to our officials, because I think the point that Councillor Collins and Newman have been making is quite an important one. As I read it, we can do our consultation process now. If we decide to adopt a policy of not proceeding or of proceeding, we're then required to go through a second special consultative procedure. And I recall a number of councillors saying, can't we do this together with something else? We seem always to be consulting, it's time consuming and it leads to exhaustion. Is it possible that we could run those procedures together, but taking note of Councillor Collins's point that this needs to be, if it's in line with the legislative requirement, is there enough flexibility in it to make sure we get out to the communities that would not normally be participants in this process? Can you give us some clarification on that point, please?
Yes, through you, Your Worship. 2 points I'd like to make. The first one is just to clarify that if you decide to go with option 1 and we undertake some form of community engagement, when we come back in August for a decision, that decision of the governing body would either be, generally speaking, to keep the status quo, in which case you don't do a special consultative procedure.
Okay, thank you.
If you decide to adopt a policy to expand Easter Sunday trading, then you do have to go through a special consultative procedure. So I just want to clear up that one. The second one would be that if we could align with another SCP process that we think would be appropriate, that would still get us to a Easter 2018 decision, then we can look at doing that.
Okay, no, that clarifies that point well. Thank you very much. Councillor Wayne Walker.
Sure. I'd just like to endorse the comments that Efiso made and John Watson and Daniel. I'm particularly concerned around the principles that I see here. And what's happening is we've got government increasingly putting things to us that rightly should be the matter of government. New Zealand is an incredibly small country. It's tiny in international sense. And we risk the situation where we'll have different circumstances from one part of New Zealand to another. It'll be bad enough for New Zealanders, let alone visitors. They won't know what's up, where things are at. The other issue that we have to be pushing back on is the cost. $50,000 that we're expending, and if you put a value on people's time in the community, how much is that? Probably millions.
That is what it is.
So there are some really bad principles that are happening here. I'm concerned that we push back as much as we can around what I see happening. We take a strong stand, whatever that is. And I guess the other matter that goes to it in terms of decision making is this is complicated. It involves history, it involves morals, it involves religion, and many of those things are better dealt with nationally than by us. So I've got a real concern around the process that's at stake here, and I would hope that when people put in submissions that they all say something about the process, because it's bad.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I mean, it seems a bit like it's a kind of an election campaign at the moment with some of the comments. I actually think that going up to consultation and, I mean, at first I thought, oh gosh, we don't want to make this decision, it's quite hard, but I personally didn't come here for an easy ride. I came here to have to make some of the hard decisions on behalf of our communities. And so I actually think that in terms of our communities having to go to select committees and such would actually be much harder for them. I actually think that we're much closer to our communities. I think it's really important that they get a say, and I do hope, and I hope, Councillor Collins and Filipina, that you help our staff go into the churches and be there with them to help, you know, get them to really engage. I think that's really important. But what we've also got to remember is we've heard from representatives of 3 local boards on behalf of 3 local boards today, but we have 18 others. And so that is important. We are very diverse. And though some local boards and some communities have complete faith in the representative style of democracy, a lot of our boards like the participatory type of democracy. They want to be heavily involved. They want to come and tell us what to do on every single decision, because that's their way too. And so I think this is important to make sure that all views are heard. And we're not making a decision for each local board, we're making a policy decision for the whole of the Auckland region. So in terms of tourism, when people are in Auckland, there'll be one policy, or not, well, whatever we decide in August. So I think that's really important. I also don't want to just close this off and someone else has to make the hard decision in, 2022. It's our responsibility to make these decisions, not to put them off for somebody else to do it at another day when it doesn't, when it's, makes it easier for us and keeps us a bit popular. I don't think we should be doing that. I think it's very important. I just want to clarify something. This is not going to cost added extra millions. We've heard from our manager that it's 50,000 in staff time. These are our policy staff that are already employed by us. So that is the estimated cost, and we're already paying these staff, and this is what they love to do, and they're good at it. So I think it's a bit harsh saying it's a bad system. We do this all the time and we get people's feedback, but we're going to have to be very careful to make sure we get to the hard to reach places. And I do want to hear from the communities. I do want to hear from everybody all over Auckland. And I'm not going to say what view I've got, because I'm not actually attached to the outcome of this at all. And because I do want to have an open mind, I don't want to signal to my community that I think one way and they might think another. And then are they going to trust my decision making, that I've really heard them? So I'm not I don't have an opinion on this. I want to hear what people are saying. And I think that's the fair thing to do. Just like any good decision making, you shouldn't be declaring your hand beforehand in this kind of procedure. So really, I think this is the best options. We know how strong our local board members are, and they're close to the community. I want to hear what they all say. I think that's really important. So that's why I support option 1, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. If I just make 2 very brief points as to why I'm seconding Councillor Cooper's motion. This is an important issue that people are quite passionate about, and I think that it would be wrong for 21 of us to exercise our individual views without taking into account the views of the communities that we represent. So I support the process of consultation. Slightly different opinion from Councillor Cooper in that I have an established position on this that I've voted on in the past on a number of occasions. Some people have said to me, because I have represented multicultural communities, but isn't this just about Christian festivals? And of course, 3 of the 3.5 days we're talking about are very important occasions in the Christian calendar. But I think it's not simply about religious observance. I want to pick up Councillor Hills's comment that, 3.5 days a year for family time, is that asking too much? This is an important time when everybody has the opportunity, as on Christmas Day, to come together, and I'd like to see that opportunity retained. And I think rather than just religious festivals, these have adopted the overtone of actually being cultural festivals for New Zealand, an important time of the year. Even if you're non-Christian, it's an important time of the year that you can come together, and it's a quiet and it's a peaceful day, and it's a day out of the commercially competitive pressures that we face on every other day. So I'm happy to support the resolution. I think consultation is important. And I'm sure all of you will listen to what our communities are saying, and then in August we will make a decision on this. And if we make a decision for the status quo, we won't have to go through that second engagement. If we make a decision to change, then we will go through a further consultative process. So, if I can, the resolution, there's been no amendments, so the resolution moved by Cooper, seconded by Goff. We improve community engagement on whether to retain the status quo or adopt a policy that will allow shops in all or parts of Auckland to trade on Easter Sunday from 2018. I'll put that resolution. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
To the contrary, no. Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Right. We thank you very much for officials for your good work on that paper. We come now to the 2017 Local Government New Zealand Conference and Annual General Meeting. As councillors are no doubt aware, it will be held this year in Auckland. So we have a bit of flexibility about the representation at it without incurring travel and accommodation costs. This paper also refers to representation not only at the Local Government New Zealand Conference, but at the AGM after it. So, Warwick McNaughton, welcome to the table as our Principal Advisor. Can I ask you to speak to the paper? And then we not only have to consider the recommendations, but it would also probably be appropriate to determine who the representatives will be at both the conference and the AGM, unless councillors are of a contrary opinion that you'd like a bit more time to think about that. Warwick, could I ask you to speak to the paper, please?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of points, as you've already mentioned, there are in fact two events, and one event is the conference and it's followed by the annual general meeting, and so we're asking this meeting to approve attendance at the conference and to appoint the 4 delegates to attend the AGM. As the Mayor has mentioned, it's in Auckland this time, costs are down. Typically in the past, or at least last year, we approved attendance of 6 to the conference. Our suggestion is that because it's in Auckland, you might like to think about 9 governing body members. In terms of the annual general meeting, we are also suggesting in the report that you might like to think about one of the delegates being a local board member. And that's really those are the key points, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Warwick. I'll formally move the recommendation, but we have gaps in the recommendation to fill in. Have we got a seconder for that, Professor Collins? Can we now have questions, specifically questions, to our Principal Advisor, if there are any questions? Councillor Simpson.
So just a question around the point that you made about local board members. So Auckland Council is the only, a local board representative. Auckland Council is the only council that has local boards, right?
Yes.
So when we're going down to conference around New Zealand, everybody else has community boards. Mm-hmm. Do they send community board representatives as well?
I think that's true. Local boards members have attended the conference as well, but in the past have not been one of the formal delegates to the annual general meeting.
So my former local board colleagues will remember that local boards get asked if they want to send someone and they can pay, and we have money for that. So is that process still going to happen?
In fact, the recommendation going to local boards is 2 per board.
Right. So this is just to be able to vote at the annual general meeting on behalf of one city that only has local boards.
Yes, the organisation, Local Government New Zealand, I think it's important to make the point, it's an incorporated society, and the members of the society are the councils. So any vote is a vote saying this is the position of the Auckland Council. It's not representing the individual position of any of the delegates.
Thank you. It's cleared my thinking. So as a shared governance model, what we're showing is a shared...
That's correct.
Yeah, I get that. Thank you.
Your Worship, if I can add to this, the reason why we put the option of maybe including a local board member is some local board members have been wanting to get more involved in LGNZ, and the decisions on being in the National Council have up to now been made by the governing body. We've been engaging with local government New Zealand, just saying quite strongly, you need to recognise in your constitution the fact that the Auckland governance model is different. So what we're trying to do is just being more inclusive, but we only have 4 positions for the AGM.
Thank you, you've clarified my questions, thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any further questions?
Sorry, Mr Mayor, can I just a quick
Councillor.
comment, and it's a slightly
Councillor
opportune
Hulse.
comment, not directly related to the question, but addressing Councillor Simpson. There is a huge push by local government New Zealand to recognise more effectively the whole local board structure. They're increasingly aware that the local board structure is unique and that we need to find better ways to do that. So working along with Mayor John Carter of the Far North, who's the Deputy Chair of Zone 1, which I chair, we're working really proactively at getting local board members absolutely and enthusiastically involved, and Pippa Coombe is working with that. So that's something that when we finally come up for a breath of air, we're hoping to see a list of innovative, exciting and invigorating workshops that will be hosted by Zone 1 that will be well attended by many, many local board members and hopefully councillors. So it's well recognised and a work in progress.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Richard Hills, question?
Yes, it's probably more of a question for you, Mayor Goff. Just maybe thinking that potentially I could be one of the names up there, as I'm the rep for the policy group for LGNZ, and I've been down once as your representative, and I'm on the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs as well, which is LGNZ related, so it might be maybe...
That's a campaign speech. We'll give consideration to that. Thank you, Councillor Hills. Councillor Simpson? Oh,
I've given my
sorry, no, you just weren't transferred across. I was going to invite you again. No further... sorry, Councillor Darby.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm looking at the program and I'm thinking, what is in here for me? What's going to inspire me here? And I'm used to some inspiring contributions at Auckland Conversations. I go to just about every one and they're outstanding. And I have to be really honest, I am struggling to find much inspiration after your address, of course, which is in the opening.
I'm glad you've qualified that, Councillor.
But for me, the program looks pretty weak. And I do note the closing keynote. That looks interesting. But between your pōwhiri and the closing, I can't see much on offer for me and possibly us. And I just really want to convey that. I think our Auckland Conversations is doing extraordinary work with 800 people in attendance every 3 or 4 weeks. But this program looks weak from Local Government New Zealand.
Thank you. That's a campaign speech not to be appointed to the conference. Look, I've looked at the program myself, and I may share some of those views, but the program has been set and we're faced with that. What makes a conference, of course, is not just the simple program, but the participation of the delegates and the networking around it. So I think as the Mayor of the host city, I'm obliged to go. I think we as a council are obliged to have good attendance at it, and we have a further obligation to try to make that as productive a conference as it can be. Auckland is a big force in local government New Zealand, and maybe we've got to look, and talking offline again later to Councillor Hulse about how maybe we can help shape the agenda rather than simply being the recipient of it would be a good point. Right, Councillor Deputy Mayor Bill Cashmore.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just to back up what you've said, in this case, the actual agenda's there as part of it. Probably a more important part is the actual ability for us to be able to sell and explain the Auckland story and the journey that we're on, because other parts of New Zealand have a little bit of difficulty understanding us and our journey. And I think the vital ingredient for us to contribute to this conference is to sell our story, explain Auckland, and the great things that are happening here. And that's the opportunity that we need to make happen.
Thank you, Councillor Cashmore. Councillor Collins.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say I don't plan on being one of the delegates from council to go, but I just wanted to know if it was possible within the program for councillors to be invited perhaps to the pōwhiri, because I just think that as the host council, there are certain events where I think we probably should attend. And I think the pōwhiri, even the Poroporo Ake, would be worth that attend. I don't want to, that might just be a bit left field to make that kind of a suggestion, but I just think it would be a good way to express our welcome to delegates who are coming from all over the country, if that was possible. That's all.
No, I think that's an excellent idea. We should try to propose that. Okay. Opportunity. No other questions. Is there any discussion around this paper? Councillor Denise Lee.
I'll just make a comment that we have a historic need for more connection with LGNZ from here. I haven't actually had that journey myself, I will admit, but I wonder whether we should be. So comments on the agenda and comments on whether we are or not attending, I don't think are helpful in the grand scheme of us needing to, what was your words just before, Deputy Mayor, or maybe it was you, Mr. Mayor, around shaping the agenda. And I mean the agenda in its fullest sense. So I would like to see great attendance. And if you can't go to the full thing, I think you're right if you saw that we look at least turning up for the beginning and the welcoming side of things. We've got a big role to play in the country in terms of local government structures. So we often leave it to those who are reps to the zones, and that's it. And the rest of us don't hear or know what the journey is, and maybe that needs to change. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. Good point. Any further discussion on this paper? Then I'm just going to foreshadow what we need to do before we vote on item B. Councillor Wayne Walker.
It's just a very brief comment. I won't talk at length, but essentially a number of councillors I know have a concern with the choice of venue, which is the Sky City Casino. I know I'm one of them. I just want to put that on record. Enough said.
Yep. I think that decision has been taken. I understand the concern of some councillors around it, though I have to say I go to lots of conferences at the Sky City simply because that's where the organising groups are holding them. So, yeah, maybe this is slightly different, but it is, I think, a decision that's been taken that we don't have influence over. Councillor Collins?
Thanks, sir. Is it possible to amend or add an amendment for the inclusion or the invitation for this council or governing body to at least attend the welcoming pōhiri or celebration? I don't know if that will have a reflection on cost, but I just think as an exercise of us reaching out to those who are attending, it would be a good.
I'll seek advice on that. I would have thought for the opening ceremony that we'd have some flexibility to do that, and that would be seen very positively. I mean, we'll check it through with LGNZ, but I think it'd be seen very positively if all of our councils came as part of that welcoming ceremony without being encumbered with the cost of being a delegate. But we'll check that out because I think the point that you made was well made. Thank you. If I can just come to, before we start going through the agenda, on the recommendation, before we decide which 3 delegates we appoint, we have to determine, normally it will be the Mayor, and that's in recommendation A. Normally it would be the Chief Executive Officer. And then the question we have in front of us, do we appoint 2 members from the governing body? This is for the AGM. 2 members from the governing body, or do we split that 1 member from the governing body and 1 member from the local boards for them to determine? So maybe I can invite some discussion around that, and we actually need a resolution on that, I think, Sandra.
It's not four. Well, if you take you, because you have to be you, and a chief executive is actually only two. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that leaves, if
Be the
you
deputy mayor.
accept those two things, there are two delegates left for the AGM. Now, we're talking about the AGM
Only.
and not the local government conference. So you are restricted in your votes. And the issue that is set out in your paper, but not on our recommendations, is whether we decide of those remaining two slots, it should be two governing body members or one governing body member and one local board member. Marguerite, can I invite you to comment on that?
Yes, if you refer to paragraph 13, we have outlined the names that we would recommend you choose from for the AGM. And you have Pippa Combs' name there, who would be probably a logical representative from the local boards if you decided to go that way.
We may not be in the position, if we decide to have a local board representative, I agree with your suggestion, it's very wise, but it's outside our authority to make that decision, I think, on behalf of the local boards. We could make that suggestion to them, but in the end, they would have to determine who their representative was.
So a suggested alternative is we add a recommendation about invite, if you decide so, invite Pipacom to be the fourth representative at the AGM. So we'd have.
You can only have 3 delegates.
Process question, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Let's just hold that for a moment. Councillor Simpson.
We're running ahead of ourselves, aren't we? The first thing we have to determine is whether or not the two spaces left available, if one is already you and the chief executive, first thing we have to decide is one of those, if those two spaces are two governing body members or one governing body member and a local board.
That's the first decision we have to make.
After that, we'll cross what happens after that next as far as process.
Let's have a discussion around, I'm making a presumption that councillors agree it should be the mayor and the chief executive officer. Let's have a discussion now around whether the two remaining slots be filled by the governing body or split between the governing body and the local board. So can I invite any input on that question from councillors? Councillor Cooper.
Thank you. I mean, I personally think you should have the deputy mayor there, and I mean, I would have thought Councillor Walker, given he's a Zone 1 rep, but he doesn't seem to want to go there, even though he's got that position. I mean, we're not going to make him gamble. But
hang on a second.
It does concern me, but...
What are you saying about me?
No, I'm just saying that you're the Zone 1 rep, so I would have thought that you would have been the person that would be the delegate.
I'll take a call next from Councillor Walker, but if you can conclude, please.
And I do think we'll have 42 local board members going to this conference, which is huge. There's very little involvement from the governing body, and I think we should have the 3 delegates being the governing body, because we've still got plenty of opportunity for 42 local board members to input to our delegates for decisions there. I think that's really good. The other issue that I've heard over and over from local boards is you made us choose, you know, not very many people. It was really hard for us to choose. We've got 149 local board members, you know, and I think that's a really tough call for 148 people to choose, or 149 people to choose one person. How long that will take, I don't know, whether we have the time, but I just think until Local Government New Zealand have clarified the positions of local boards, and I hope they hurry up, because our model's here, and it needs to be acknowledged that I think we just have, for me, it's governing body members as delegates. That's my view.
Okay, I'm totally open-minded on this, so I do really want to get feedback from councillors. Councillor Simpson.
Thank you, Worship. I'm going to be very simple. We are a shared governance model. This is Auckland Council's representative. I think we show that shared governance by taking a shared team. I would support a local board person and a governing body member.
Can I procedurally ask you maybe to move a recommendation that one of the representatives to the, now we're talking about the AGM, but because there's lots of opportunities for the local government conference, but so that we've got a recommendation on the board that one of the 4 representatives from Auckland Council be a local board member, and then we've got something to focus on in our debate.
I'd be happy to
Happy to second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Do we have, Councillor Walker, did you want to comment further on that? Or?
Sure, I'll just comment. I'm entirely supportive of that motion on the part of Desley, and I would note that Pipacoom has already been representing local boards at Zone 1. We've already had a process to arrive at that appointment. And frankly, they sit alongside us, so we need to give weight to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further, Councillor Hills?
Would be maybe just to make it easier if we just put the deputy mayor in and then invites Pipacoom or another local board member in that 3 spot. So,
well, I just want to, if I may, I just want to sort out the principle first of whether there should be a local board member, and I want to. This is a decision for all of councillors to make. Once we've sorted that out, we're one step further down the track to determining who the delegates should be. Any further discussion on that? Have we got that on the screen yet? We're working on that, so if somebody else wants to take a call while we're waiting.
I will, Mr. Mayor.
Deputy Mayor.
So I completely endorse the co-governance model. Everyone knows that. My concern is that this particular AGM for the LGNZ conference, we are going to be electing a new president and executive. And that's going to be a big call, so some institutional knowledge and history of the people involved will be quite important. So I just think councillors need to think about that in the context of the decision that they're about to make.
Thank you very much. The big importance, I think, of this AGM is that after many years, Lawrence Ewell is standing down, and we will be electing a new president of Local Government New Zealand. Okay, how are we going with the? Okay, we've got a new resolution A. If there's no further discussion, it's entirely up to councillors to make the decision on this one. It's been moved and seconded that one of the 4 delegates at Local Government New Zealand be a local board member at the AGM. Maybe I'll just put that and we'll have a demonstration of opinion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no.
No.
Can I maybe do it by show of hands just to be absolutely certain about this? So if, and I'll ask our officials to do a quick count. Those in favour of the resolution, can you please raise your right hand? Left hand, I think.
1, 2, 3, 4, yips.
That's 10. Those opposed? I'll declare that resolution passed by 10 to 5.
I abstained, Mr. Mayor.
An abstention from Councillor Mike Lee. Thank you, Mike. Okay, so we then come to what was A and is now B, which is keeps changing on me. Appoint the Mayor as Auckland Council presiding delegate to the Local Government New Zealand AGM. Is there any discussion about that? Councillor Clow?
Just in the light of Councillor Cashmore's comments, I'd like to nominate Councillor Hulse.
Yeah, sorry, that will be in the new resolution B. So just the first resolution is whether you want the Mayor as the presiding delegate and to be
all those in favour?
Please relieve me of this responsibility. I'll put that resolution. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no. Thank you, I think.
Do I hear your voice?
Carried. Now, so we have the Mayor, we have a local board member, we have 2 other positions. I've consulted with the Chief Executive, who is normally a member, and he has indicated to me that he is, I won't say happy, he is prepared to be, reluctantly prepared to be relieved of that. So that would leave us with 2 other members from the governing body to appoint to the panel, and I'll come back to how we appoint the local board member in one moment. So I'm seeking nominations for who, and we may need to do this by vote, who would the other two delegates should be. Councillor Clow, you've foreshadowed. Deputy Mayor?
Yep. No, Councillor
Councillor
Hulse.
Hulse.
Oh, Councillor Hulse.
And the Deputy Mayor.
Okay.
You mentioned it.
Okay.
All right, there we go, that's mine.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Cashmore.
That was my,
Okay.
yep, so I support that.
Any further nominations? You could make my life easier by...
Oh. Sir, I just wanted to...
Well, that's it, isn't it?
I thought Councillor Hills had shown an interest as well.
I was meaning in the...
I took you to mean the
Okay, fine.
the conference, Councillor Hills, yeah. So maybe I shouldn't delay too long and say I've received 2 nominations. If there are no further nominations...
Can I just have some clarification? So you said there was an extra, so you're saying those 2 and a local board member, so that makes the 3,
So
or is it now 4?
It would be Mayor, a local board member and 2 members
Well,
of the
we've got
governing
them,
body.
haven't we?
That's the 4. Okay, so Marguerite?
Warwick just came up with a good suggestion. If you look at the recommendations, in recommendation E, we are proposing to delegate to the mayor in the event an appointed member cannot attend the AGM, that you approve the attendance of another member. So one option would be for the governing body to appoint Pipakum, and if she says no, then it gives you the delegation to replace her.
Yeah, I'm aware that there's some flexibility in this, but it is the AGM and it's a shorter period of time and it does have an important vote. But that would be one way of doing it. If I can put that resolution that sorry,
Can I just
Councillor Simpson.
have a comment about that suggestion?
Yeah, sure.
So,
It's not what we're voting on immediately, but you can make your comment now because it's in response.
well, I just feel that we're democratically appointing whom we would like to be at the AGM.
Yep.
And I think it would be only right for the local board members to democratically vote
Thank you.
who they send. So with respect, I do support you having the delegation to appoint somebody who can't go.
Yep.
But that's a different issue.
We'll
so
need, I think, another recommendation as to how we seek the appointment of the local board representative after I've moved this resolution.
I'll have a think about it.
Okay, so what you've got in front of you now is that the 2 governing body representatives be Councillor Penny Hulse and Deputy Mayor Bill Cashmore. So I have no further nominations, so actually I'll declare those 2 members elected as delegates to the AGM. Thank you very much. Can I come back now to the question of who the representative of the local board should be? I think there is a logic in that person being somebody who's already involved at LGNZ, but I think the principles of respecting the role of the local boards is to allow them to reach that conclusion rather than us reaching that conclusion instead. So I don't know what the appropriate wording might be, but maybe that we seek a nomination from the chairs of the combined chairs of the local boards to have a delegate at the LGNZ local board. Does that sound like a resolution?
Through the chairs.
Through the chairs.
To
through the chairs.
invite them to
Yeah.
nominate a delegate.
Yeah. Yep. And I think, look, I think Pipakum would be a great representative, as you do. I think we can make that suggestion, but in the end, they make that decision. So have we got that? If we can get that resolution up, I'll delay just while we get it on the screen. Democracy is a complex process.
4th delegate.
To choose a delegate, I think, to the AGM of Local Government New Zealand. Yep. That's good. Right, we have the resolution on the screen. I will put that resolution. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no. Carried. It is complicated, but we've got to it. Now, we need to know what the next resolution is that we are putting. Let me foreshadow it. On my written copy, approve attendance at LGNZ Conference of the Mayor and Governing Body delegates appointed in recommendation B, if it's still recommendation B, and of other governing body members up to a total of 9 attendees. So that is what we now have in front of us for discussion. If I wanted to guide the discussion, I might suggest that we include those that are going to the AGM, but also the elected members who hold LGNZ roles, actually that covers them, under para 13. So that would give us 6 councillors, which means that we would have 3 vacancies to fill. So let me put that up as a recommendation that in filling the 9 slots for delegates to the conference, that we appoint the 6 elected members who hold LGNZ roles and seek, and then we'll fill the other 3. But let me just put that to councillors to see if there is a consensus around that suggestion.
Wayne, you didn't want to go though, did you? Or did you?
Yes, I do want to go.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I never said that I
No,
didn't
sorry.
want
Okay,
to go.
no, that's clarified that. So just so you've got it in front of you, the first 6 members would be Gough, Hulse, Cashmore, Wayne Walker, Philippina and Hills. Is there any objection to those 6 being part of the delegation of 9, if I can put it that way?
Good.
That's
Done.
good, we have agreement. So let me now seek from other councillors 3 nominations, including self-nominations, if you wish, to fill the 3 vacancies so we can complete our delegation. Councillor Fletcher.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I don't want to self-nominate. I do, however, want to seek perhaps an expression of interest from fellow councillors, of those who share my view that we've never seen the value proposition. This is something that I've asked every year for 6 years, but I'm not persuaded, given the costs and I appreciate the Deputy Mayor's point on the importance of telling the story of Auckland, but I am not persuaded that we are getting value for money out of the local government New Zealand costs that are associated for the ratepayer. And I'd like to feel that the person who's going to put their hand up is somebody who is actually going to be mindful of that and can make a useful contribution at the conference. So I'm hopeful that we could have one of the LGNZ sceptics rather than the cheerleaders included in this group.
Well, can I nominate Councillor Chris Fletcher?
No, I don't wish. I have attended on occasion, and I'm not persuaded the benefit of
No.
the attendance.
Look, I understand your point, Councillor, and the fact is this year the cost proposition is much less than it would normally be.
I do appreciate that,
which is the
but
reason
there's still
why.
a cost.
Yeah, it's still a cost, and I think your second point was extraordinarily valid, that if you're going to be nominated, then you need to be there and willing to participate. I absolutely take your point on that. Further, I was looking for nominations at this point. 3 other councillors who wish to attend. Councillor Cooper.
I'll go, but I must say, I think it's useful and I think we need to support our other councils, but what I've found in the last little while is that we're telling our good story, but we're not getting a lot of stuff back. It's almost like we're the teacher. And so I think because we've been through such a huge journey, but I do think that we should support our fellow elected members and councillors around the region, because it's a huge job, and we need to have a sense of collegiality through the country. I think that is important. So that's why I would like to attend for that reason. Thank you.
No, I concur completely with that. So nomination of Councillor Linda Cooper. 2 other councillors that would like to volunteer their time.
We don't have to have all of them.
We don't have to fill it. If you don't feel obliged, if there is less than 9, we will take less than 9.
Councillor Greg Sayers, I'm sure he'd make a fine contribution.
Greg, are you happy to be nominated for that position?
I hadn't put my hand up just because of a clash in dates, but I could remove those if there's obviously a a keenness there by other councillors for me to attend.
Yes,
So yes,
yes,
I'm happy to.
there is. Councillor Sayers.
He's desperate, Greg.
Do we have a councillor from the south that, well, we've got Alf already.
Councillor Newman was showing some interest too.
I'm very busy, unfortunately. But I'm very happy to defer to Councillor Collins if he would like to be available.
Councillor Collins, would you be available?
I think we're covered with Councillor Filipina, thanks.
People are being extraordinarily polite. I want to see your diary, Councillor Newman, to see that you are very busy. Is there any, we're one position short. If there isn't a willing volunteer that wants to participate from the Sunday to the Tuesday morning, it will be 8 councillors. There's no requirement to have 9.
Close nominations.
And 42 local board members.
Yeah, I don't want to exclude any councillor. It's a chance while the conference is in Auckland to see how it works and to participate in it. So if there's no other taker, I will close it and we will change the resolution to have 8 delegates. Last chance. Going. Sorry.
The resolution doesn't need to change. It's
Oh,
up to 9.
There is a point. We have an absent colleague, Councillor Casey, who may well be very interested in going. So
She won't go in that building.
You would be.
Yeah, I'll nominate.
oh no, she won't actually.
I'll nominate her.
Yes, she may be less interested for that reason. Okay, good suggestion, but snookered.
Nominate Councillor Quacks, actually.
I have no indication. Look, I think we'll leave it at 8, but if there is another councillor that is not present that wishes to be nominated, maybe you can delegate that authority to the Mayor to make that decision. Happy if Dick wants to go. I suspect there may be some mischief behind that suggestion.
Well, no, you could talk to him. Let me know how that goes.
We could talk to him. Thank you. Okay, so we have a resolution that gives us 8 councillors with a delegated authority to the Mayor to accept a 9th if an absent councillor wishes to participate. Can we put that in our resolution?
So that means 50 representatives from our council. That is huge.
We also need to add oh no, we have got that.
Through you, Mr Mayor, rather than an absent councillor, just an additional councillor.
An additional.
Somebody might change their mind.
No, that's good. Our list as on the screen in front of me is not complete. We should have. Oh no, we've got the Mayor.
It's got B.
Oh, we've already got that. No, that's fine. Okay. Okay. The resolution is on the screen. It's resolution D. I'll put the resolution. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no. Carried. We come to resolution E, delegate to the Mayor in the event that he can't attend the AGM, the ability to appoint another governing body member to the role of presiding delegate. Maybe I can run. You're all familiar with the remaining resolutions. I don't think any of them are controversial. So if I can move resolution E to I, J. If there's no discussion.
Just a comment, Mr Chairman, on J.
Yes.
I mean, I do think 42 local board members is somewhat excessive. I mean, I'm hoping that, that means there's 50 of us attending, and when you put it the cumulative cost, that is huge.
What is the cost cumulatively? They offered the opportunity.
Offered. I mean, I just think that,
Yeah.
I'm not against them attending at all, but I think one from each would be plenty. It is, we could halve that cost by 50%.
Okay,
But I mean, it's up to you, but I do think that is, I mean, we've never done that before. I think that's quite a lot.
Okay, let's have some
In terms of
discussion about
cost.
this. Let's first of all clarify the question
They
of
do have the
cost
Community
for
Board
local
Association.
for local board members to attend the conference. What's the
Sorry, I'm just...
Marguerite, we've got you running around the place. I'm sorry about that.
Place at the right time. So the cost to attend the conference is, for the early bird registration is $1,400, and we've negotiated with LGNZ a discount for Auckland Council of $1,100 for given the number of attendees we can have.
That's over $50,000, and we could maybe just about halve that if we change that.
Is there a reason why 2 local board members from each local board be required rather than 1?
So
would be more economic?
the conference is not a requirement, but we have treated it also as a professional development opportunity for elected members, and the option of attending a conference where they can learn something is part of the Te Kura Kawana program.
It was boring.
Yeah, but
I'm just, if I could, sorry, before I call you, Councillor Cooper, the advice I've received is that the nature of this resolution would need to be to recommend to local boards, because they end up making the decision as to the numbers who can attend. And it's their budget.
Yeah.
That might focus their minds a bit more, Councillor Cooper.
So it comes from their LDI?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's not the LDI budget.
It's out of their local budget.
Professional development.
Their PD budget.
Professional development budget, I'm told. So are you more relaxed about...
Well,
we'll have to change the recommendation.
in
because
one way, but Mr Chairman, our staff and several elected members in the last year of the last term spent a huge amount of time and energy developing a professional development program for all elected members, which is being rolled out. I don't know what the attendance rates are or anything, but that is quite a professionally developed program specifically for elected members. And one of the reasons we did that was to make sure people had good professional development, and it was cost effective because it was delivered in-house. So I just was interested in a comment on that. You know, we went through that for a reason, and it took a long time, and it was well considered, and it's very well rounded in the content. So I'm just wondering what local government can offer any of us in the way of professional development.
A suggested amendment.
Yeah. Okay, if I could just reply on that. Again, we go back to the principle I think we looked at before. We've got to be careful not to tell local boards exactly how they spend their budget.
No, that's fine. I'm just bringing that up. You might not have been aware of it.
No, and that's useful to know. I've just made another suggestion that under J that it reads, recommend to local boards that up to 2 local boards are offered the opportunity to attend. And that's only a recommendation, so it's in their hands.
Right.
Councillor Simpson.
I'd like to suggest an amendment to your amendment, and that is that note that local boards are able to attend this conference using their professional development budget, and may... Why should it be 1, 2, 3, 4? It's their budget. So we should just note that
I'd be happy to accept that amendment in place of what I've put up. I think that's sensible. I think Councillor Cooper's point is relevant, but they will be weighing up the value that they'll get from attending the conference as against the value that they'll get.
Sometimes I reckon he sent nobody.
Another question then. Does that mean that this comes off councillors' professional development budget? Because we haven't been told that, because if that's the case, I don't want to use that fund. I don't choose that as I said, I don't find that as
I'll just seek
contributes to my
clarification.
professional development.
No, it won't.
It won't. Okay. Thank you.
So-
That's fine then.
If we're just changing, let's look at recommendations. Is it D to I that we haven't passed? And we'll do that while we're getting a change to, according to the amendment moved by Councillor Simpson. So
It's just a note.
recommendations D to I, if I put those recommendations, all those in favour please say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no. Carried. And we'll just pause for a moment on the last recommendation.
Sorry, we're just
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Yeah. It's been suggested to me that since this is just a noting, maybe we don't need it at all, and we simply we simply advise them of their opportunity, because whatever.
Just have it as a note.
Yeah, noting that local board members are offered the opportunity to attend. It just closes the loop on the local board attendance, noting how they.
Look, yeah, no, I think that's okay. It is simply a noting, and the decision rests with them, and that's appropriate. Okay, so I'll put recommendation J. I'm sorry, Councillor Hills, I didn't.
Oh no, it was
I
just
didn't
a
see
comment that 600 members attend, but we are a third of the country, so 50 may not be a massive.
Yeah.
So but irrelevant.
Point well made. I'll put resolution J. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no. Carried. Right. Councillor Watson.
Mine was just a mental note, Mr Mayor, and that maybe when the conference is at more exotic locations than Auckland, we bear in mind the overall cost of the numbers that are attending.
Absolutely. The only reason that we're recommending a higher than usual attendance is that there are no travel and accommodation costs associated with our attendance. I don't know how often it comes to Auckland, but it's probably once every 6-7 years. So it is the opportunity for us to show our support, and it is the opportunity for councillors and local board members to understand the organisation better. And we will have an ongoing discussion about how we can make local government New Zealand most relevant in terms of its role that it performs in New Zealand. I think it can be very important, and if we have constructive suggestions to make about how to improve it, then we should work in those lines. Okay, thank you very much. That was slightly longer, but we've got a clear outcome from that. So we now move to item number 13, which is the selection process for the demographic advisory panels for the next 3 years. Can I just draw councillors' attention to the fact that this is not the section where we discuss those who are being nominated to those panels. That's being done on the confidential agenda for obvious reasons of privacy. This is simply about the process that we've followed in getting these nominations and then subsequently making the relevant appointments. So can I invite Austin Kim, our Principal Advisor on the panels, and Marguerite Delbay to make any comments that they think are relevant to this paper.
So, Your Worship and Councillors, this paper just outlined the process that we went through to appoint members to 5 of the 6 advisory panels. The members were selected by a recruitment panel who was chaired by the liaison councillor with the lead officers and some members of the community. We run quite an extensive campaign to invite applications. We got 326 applications, which we were happy with. And so the process we went through, which was a robust process and consistent across the panels, is just described there. Just to note that we are following a different process for the appointment of the youth advisory panels, so it's not in this paper.
Thank you very much. Now, first of all, anyone that's got questions to our officials on the paper, Councillor Simpson.
Your Worship, thank you. We've got 2 recommendations. One is around the process and one is about the terms of reference. And my question is around the terms of reference, if that's appropriate. So notwithstanding that we had a report on this whole thing, and that report from Martin Jenkins said that the demographic advisory panels were neither optimally effective or optimally efficient. What changes to the terms of reference have been made so we will be a little bit more effective and efficient?
So the major changes include the format of the process and meetings. So previously, all the agendas were open to the public for discussion. Yep. So that basically meant that a lot of panels discussed the issues based on what was already formed by council officers, as the many agendas were formed and developed and came to the advisory panels right before coming to the governing body or committees for sign-off. Just to get the advice at the end of the stage. So what we are trying to do this time is to get the council staff members to come to the advisory panels at an early stage of their planning and brainstorming in a more closed environment between staff members and councillors and the advisory panel members for further conversations so that their input can be incorporated at an early stage of the planning.
Okay, thank you. And a second question, if I may.
Councillor.
So it's again around the terms of reference. So where I'm a little bit confused is that we're running this as governing body members, as the liaison, and I get what we're doing and we're doing it. So the purpose is for us to engage on council policies, plans and strategies. So how does this, bearing in mind that a council plan, for example, is a local board plan, how is the engagement, how is the integration with these panels fitting into local boards? Bearing in mind we are the governing representative working with these groups, how does that fit in to local boards? Are these groups on regional policies only because we're the regional representatives, or are they right across everything we do, which is both local and regional?
So the panels will provide advice of a strategic and regional nature, and they are one of the several engagement mechanisms that we've got. But this is one of the, we engage with communities in many different ways on many different things. What we're trying to achieve this time is really get them as experts to really help us engage with the communities properly as well and reflect those views.
So I just haven't got it clear in the terms of reference, and maybe I think it should be in the terms of reference that there is some communication with local boards, or do you see what I'm trying to say, Your Worship? Because if the purpose, if you look on page 4, if the purpose of the terms of reference is for regional and strategic matters, that including those of CCOs, fine, I get that. But it's the first one. It's our policy, plans and strategies at a general council. We're either using these people for regional, because we're the regional people, or we're involving them with local. And all that it needs is a change to the terms of reference to inform local boards of that feedback. That was my amendment to the terms of reference, if it was to go right across our organisation. If it wasn't to go right across our organisation and it was only to deal at regional level, well then fine. But don't use statements such as council policies, plans and strategies, which are regional and local.
Yep.
It's not clear. And I'm very keen to make sure that these panels work better than what they've worked before, because they haven't. So if we set clearly our objectives out in the terms of reference that reflect that, hopefully it will work better.
Yeah.
It's one of the tools that will help it work better.
I'll seek a comment from officials, but just to raise the question, this is about the selection process rather than the wider operation. I understand where you're coming from.
But
about.
It's written in the terms of reference.
So can you please refer me to the para that you're...
Okay, so
this is on the paper on the selection process.
Page 44.
Okay.
In the
this
agenda.
is in the attachment, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So what you're asking us to do today, or what officers are asking us to do today, is the appointment process and approve the updated terms of reference. So my questions were, how have we updated those terms of reference?
Okay.
And
No,
we've got that
that's-
answer. Now I'm looking at the terms of reference and saying, well, if you add to the terms of reference that there is communication, I'm seeking clarity whether this is regional or regional and local.
Yep.
And if it's regional and local, there needs to be a communication. I was going to take out that first bullet point under purpose.
Yeah.
If it was only regional, and if it was going to stay, there needed to be something around the role of the chief liaison councillor or whatever, or the groups to communicate their findings with local boards or to engage them. So either one or the other. But at the moment, it's not clear.
Yep.
So two comments, if I may, Your Worship. The first one is the governing body adopted these terms of reference in the last term when you made the decisions to reconvene the panels.
I wasn't here in the last term.
In the last year, sorry, of the but in this term. So the only changes that we've made to those terms, to these terms of reference, is changing the frequency and the number of some meetings, because some of the recruitment panels have recommended to appoint more members than we anticipated, so that was to balance the cost. So from the difference between the terms of reference you adopted in December and those ones, that's the only change that we've made. That's the,
Yeah,
just a point of clarification. For this, on your substantive point, we are, a key recommendation of the report and our report in December was that the demographic panels advise the governing body on strategic regional matters. So if it would make it clearer to add the word regional in that first bullet point under purpose, we can do that.
I'd be happy with that, thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds like a good, happy medium. I think there's a wider discussion to have, Councillor, in relation to how the boards operate compared to, say, advisory boards that the local boards operate. While it could be covered, as you say, under recommendation B, the focus of this paper is in fact on the selection process. But your point is relevant, and I think we need to continue to address that. But maybe with that amendment, so the suggestion is under the terms of reference.
Under purpose.
Under purpose.
Council regional policy plans and strategies.
Regional policy plans and strategies. So we make that amendment.
Yeah, it keeps it regional.
That would be consistent with what we're doing. Okay. So is there any further discussion about this paper? Is there anyone from the liaison, any of the liaison councillors that want to make a comment about process? Councillor Stewart?
Yes. Just on the recruitment costs, we've got from the long-term plan for 2015 to 25, the annual budget's 395,000, and that's the operation of the 5 panels. But does that include? We've now got the 21 youth panel members. Is that part of that budget there?
So, Your Worship, through Your Worship, the total amount indicated there is inclusive of not just the demographic advisory panels, but costs associated with what we call sector panels, inclusive of rural and heritage advisory panels. And the cost, the changes to the terms of reference reflect the change in the number of the youth advisory panel members as per the resolution made in November last year. So that has been adjusted. So that is now aligned with this budget.
Thank you. Councillor Denise Lee.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and appreciate the work that you've done, Austin, to bring the process to this point, and noting that the selection process was brought in-house and not through a recruitment agency, and I thought that worked well. I just have a question in regards to potential equity issue. For the ethnic panel, we interviewed, look, I forget the numbers, but I think we interviewed about 14 and landed on 10. And the report, the process says that each panel has between 6 and 10. On the Rainbow Advisory Panel, I see that those who are in the previous term continue, but 4 new were interviewed. So what's the total going to be for that? Because can you answer for me? My understanding is that there's a fiscal envelope and that has to be shared amongst all.
Yep.
And if the fiscal envelope is more for one panel, and that's where I'm asking about the Rainbow Panel, then do the others come down? Because we had an issue around that with exactly how many we could appoint on the ethnic panel.
So in the previous term, there were 12 members appointed, and their membership has been rolled over given that they had less than 12-month term in the previous term. 3 previous members left, and 2 of them were Maori members. And given the consideration of the Maori voices as part of the Rainbow Communities Advisory Panel, we recruited 2 additional Maori members. So they are now made up of 11 panel members there. So this is the number of members in that particular advisory panel is a bit more, 1, 2, or 3 more compared to other advisory panels. Given the diverse voices and the makeup of the issues of the rainbow communities, And given that it's been just established and they've got a lot more agendas to address to the council, so that factor has been considered.
I'm comfortable with that for now, but going forward, their number should be the same as any other panels, because if you want to talk about diversity, yes, you know, the ethnic panel has quite a bit of that, or needs quite a bit of that. So, yeah, happy for now, but it obviously will not be rolling forward in those terms. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Filipina.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I just wanted to sort of carry on from Councillor Lee in regards to the numbers, because during our interview process, and just to look, I firstly want to again reiterate what Councillor Lee said, and thank you, Austin, to you, to your team in regards to the whole process. And your Worship, I'm hoping that C could be put up there, because it needs to be acknowledged, the work that Austin and his team went through this whole process. We ended up having over 60 people apply for the Pacific Peoples Advisory Panel. We then shortlisted to 13 and interviewed 12. And I know that during our election process, so I want to put a C in there just to thank Austin and his staff in regards to the appointment process.
Can I get you, we probably don't need to make it a formal recommendation, but you could just move a vote of appreciation if that's more suitable. Happy to take that now in the midst of, if you like, while it's on our mind.
Yep.
So it's been moved, a vote of appreciation to our Austin and our officials for the huge amount of work that went into this. Have I seconded for that?
Second.
Yep, seconded, Councillor Richard Hills. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. It's a contrary, no, carried. Thank you very much for that work.
So I haven't finished.
No,
Your Worship.
keep going.
Because during the selection process, we asked Austin around the numbers, and exactly as Councillor Lee has indicated and said. So we asked a question around having 9 because of the understanding that it was 8 was the number that was getting banded around for our panels. So we asked about 9, and the comment was, look, it needed to be needed to come through to the governing body. Then I understood that Councillor Lee also mentioned the fact that, hey, for us to be real honest and to support the panels, both ethnic and Pacific, there was a number of 9. I now hear 10, and I agree with you. Is that for us around both our panels, that if there's 10 and there has to be some consistency, and it's here from 6 to 10 in our terms of reference. So it'll be interesting, Your Worship, and Marguerite and Austin, I don't know how we end up putting the fact that both Pacific Peoples Advisory Panel as well as the Ethnic Advisory Panel requesting 10 members to be appointed. Is it 10 or 9?
9.
Yeah, 9?
9.
Sorry, sorry, Councillor Lee, I thought it was, you mentioned 10, I thought, yeah, good on you. But is it 9? So, just clarification, is it 9 for ethnic as well?
Yeah. On their confidential paper, it's got set out the numbers. It's 8 for disability, 9 for ethnic, 9 for Pacific, 8 for seniors, and 2 extra Māori members for the existing Rainbows Community Board. So those are the total numbers.
Okay, cool.
I was just querying the 11 for the Rainbow panel.
Oh, yeah, okay, cool.
And whether that changed our fiscal envelope for the rest of us.
And I agree with it too. I agree with your comment around that. So, look, again, Austin, I'll wait for the confidential and look at the numbers to confirm them. Okay.
Thank you very much. Final question, Councillor Newman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Marguerite and Austin, and I concur with the positive reflections that have been offered today. My one comment, a little bit of feedback, which I just, in relation to the Youth Advisory Panel, and the paragraph 23 sets out the Youth Citizens Jury event that was held. If there was one little bit of learnings feedback I got from members of the Maniarewa Youth Council is that the timing of that event, it was held at a time when a lot of the young people couldn't attend. So I'm hoping, and I just reflected that back to Councillor Hills and Councillor Collins, I'm really hoping with respect to the recruitment process for the members of the Youth Advisory Panel that we really, and there's no perfect time, I accept that, but if we really work to try and ensure that we can get those young people involved, and they of course have to operate in a, according to the timetable, which involves their schooling and education as well. So if we could really try and ensure that the times for those engagements are conducive to the young people and their ability to participate.
We will definitely take that factor into consideration as a major process.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Last comment from Councillor Collins.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to pick up on the point made by Councillor Newman, because I think it's a very fair point to make. What I would like to say is how excited I am, and I was appreciated Councillor Hills attending on the day, that the fact that we did move to a citizens jury format. I thought the format worked really well. But again, there were challenges. We were in the middle of town. It's hard to get buses to the museum, and it rained like it was during the time where we were having some real issues with weather. So notwithstanding those things, the process that a citizens jury activated, I thought was really good. And I was there for half the day and saw some really good participation from those who were able to get there. So I wanted to congratulate them on getting, looking wide to find a process that would work. And there was, some of them even suggested that I not be in the process of selecting them at all. And I thought, well, if it's I think what excites me about that, them withdrawing me, is the fact that they felt very empowered by the fact that they could come up with the process. So I think it was a really good path to follow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. So we have two recommendations on the screen in front of you, noting the appointment process and approving the terms of reference with the addition of the word amended by Councillor Simpson. I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
I've moved it, sorry, I should have sought a seconder. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Clow. Now I'll put the resolution. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no. Carried. Item number 14 on the agenda is extraordinary business. None has been notified. So we now move to item number 15, which is the procedural motion to move into confidential session. It's been moved by the Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councillor Filipina. I'll put that resolution. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no. Carried. Can I just suggest we take a couple of minutes break while the room is cleared?